Yeah, hi there, and welcome back to my new course over here. And in this course, you will be learning about the Android SQLite and how to create the tables and how to have a relationship between the table as well as to perform a CURD operation. So we'll learn about the read, write, delete, and update a record as well as to have a relationship between two tables. And this course is mainly focused for the beginner level. So if you are a beginner on the Android development and if you haven't used about the how to store the data in your app itself, so this course is all for you. But I also welcome the users who have some experience already but want to refresh their knowledge. So you may learn some new concept over here. So everybody is welcome to join this course, but this course is mainly focused for the beginner level. And we learn a lot of topic over here. And if you like this course, do subscribe me and give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment. And if you want to support me, just visit my Udemy course and you can buy any of my course regarding the Android development. So I hope you will enjoy this course and will support me. And let's continue with our lecture. Till then, have a great day.
Yeah, hi, hello, welcome back, and let us continue with our lesson. So this will be the best project walkthrough where we will see the best project that you can use to build up our project. So let's go and have a brief walkthrough over here. So if you run that particular best project, you should get something like this. I have already created a small form where we can fill in some data and add it to the local database, as well as there is some recycle view and the notification is currently empty. So let's go to the project itself over here, and if we go to the manifest, I haven't add anything, is the default one. So let's go back to the Java. We'll go to the main source set from here, and we have a main activity. It's a default one which has a button navigation, right? So this is a default one which I created using a button navigation project. And then I have some UI section over here. We have a package for the dashboard, home, and the notification. So on the home, if you go, we have a fragment and the view model class, which is all the default one. There is nothing to customize over here. Everything is a default one. And then everything is a default one. So just a default one over here. So what I have added over here is some of the design or the layout. So if you go to the drawable, I have added some of the icons that we will be using, as well as the layout. So if you go to the let's go to the dialog edit employee. So we are going to use this dialog to edit the particular employee. So it's taking a bit time to initialize, I think. Yeah. So we have this small form that we can fill in to update. And then we have the recycle view list item that we'll be using. So when we click on edit and delete button that we have, and on the fragment dashboard we are using the recycle view, and on the home we will see that we have a small form where we can fill up the data and we can add it to our local DB. So then we have some of the values like colors. I have added some colors, and also the string of value that I have added, and also style. I have added a style resource over here, which is we use for our formatting for our form of field over here, text input layout. And then the next is the navigation that we have, the mobile navigation, the default one, and there is already added by the default project, and there's no customization over here, just a default one. I think you can understand it, right? And then if we go to the build a Gradle script over here, we will go to the build at Gradle on the app level. And here I have just added a one extra, which is of the material dialog that we will be using later to for our project. And all the rest is coming from the Android X, right? And also from the Google Material Design. So these are all of the default one. And I think I don't have to explain all of this. These are the all of the requirement. I think you should already have some knowledge about it. And here are just a new something external dependency that I added, which is to add a material dialog. And the rest of the thing is our default one. We will be adding some more requirement over here later when we are actually building the application. So So for now I have just provided a default application with some of the layout I have provided, because it takes time to design a layout. So that's why I have already included it over here. So we will be just focusing on building our application for our SQLite database. So let's meet up on our next lecture where we will be starting to build up our project. So till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello everyone, and welcome back. So let us continue with our lesson, and in this lesson we are going to build up our data class first of all. So before we can use or create our data class, what we need to do is we need to create some more package. So for that I will just go to my top level package over here and create a new package itself and call it as data. And inside this I will create a few more packages over here, and let me call this one as DB, where we'll be creating a database. And then we will have a few more, like let's say a model. It should be outside of the data, inside of the data, not inside the DB. So I'll just say a model, and then we'll also need a entity package. So let's say entity entity. Okay, so we have our three package over here, and now we will create a model over here. So let's go and add a new Kotlin class over here, and I think I'll let us make use of our data class and call it as employee employee. So we have a data class, and since this is a data class, we must add some of the constructor parameter over here. So what we need to do is we need to say a val, let's say of ID, and that should be of a type of the int. So, and I'll just give a default value of the 0 for this one, and then I will add another one, variable of our name, and which should be of a string, right? So, and then I have another one which is for val, and I have an email. This should also be type of the string, and then we will have another one val, and that should be of the phone, and that should be of the, let's say, type of the int. And why I'm creating a name, email, and the phone, because later when we add it to the database, we'll make use of this class. So this is the class that we'll be using to like the manipulate the data, like whenever we are doing a CURD operation, we will be using this data class. So if you go to the layout section over here, and if you take a look on the statement fragment home, and there we have a form like name, email address, and phone. So that is the one that we are creating, and this should be the unique one, that is a row ID that will be inserted in our table itself. So I think that's all for this lesson. We just created one data class over here which we'll be using as a model, and so let's meet up on the next lecture where we'll be working with the the entity layer. So till then, have a great day. Yeah, hi there, and welcome back. So let us continue with our lesson, and let's go to our, in the previous we have created our data class which we'll be using as a model. For now, we will go to the entity package over here and create a new, let's create an object. So I'll just give name as a employee employee, entity. So let's call it as a employee entity, because we'll be adding all of the table columns, right, and all other things that are related to our employee table inside this one. So let's create some of the constant val, and I'll just call it as a ID, and this should be of let's give as a ID, right? So it's not the class, sorry, constant val, and then we will have another one constant val, let's say our name. So we'll say name, and that should be of a name, and then we'll say a constant val of our email, right? So email, which is of equals to email, and sorry, email, email, and then finally we have another constant val, so that should be of our phone, and which is of equals to let's say our phone. So we have a constant variable over here, ID, name, email, and phone. And this will be our column name on our database table that we will be storing. So this is the ID, name, and a phone, email, and the phone. That will be our column ID for our database table. And let's create another one, constant val, and say table table underscore name, which is of equals to, let's say something like employee employee itself. And then yeah, that should be fine. And here now we have our entity object, and these are the constant variable that we can directly access using this employee entity. So let us also create some of the other requirement, like a constant val. I'll just add let's say a query, so that we'll be using to create or create our table. So let's say about the name of the query. Let's see REAT create QUERY query, and that should be of the, we will write SQL code over here. See REAT create TABL create a table, and then we access the table table name that we have, create a table, and then over here we will say the access the ID that we have, right? ID, and it should be of integer, and it should be of our primary key. It should be of a primary key and a auto auto increment. So this ID will be our type is of integer, and a primary key which should be of a auto increment. So primary key is a unique key that we are going to have for our ID, and it should auto increment. And then the second is of the column name is of name, and it should be of our text, right? And not null. Let's keep as it should not be of a null. And then another third is of our dollar email, right? So dollar email that we have, I think we should make it as a caps letter or email email. So we'll just say email email, another column, and this should be of text text, and not null, and unique. So this should be a unique field, right? So if we try to enter a duplicate value, then it should give us the error. And then finally we have one more column which should be of the phone, right? So I just said dollar, it should be of a phone, and it should be of a integer, let's say not null. So this will be our query that we are going to use. So create a query, it says create a table and give a table name and ID, and this will be of our integer type and a primary key, and which should be of auto increment. And then we have another column name which is of a text type and a not null. With not null means you cannot enter a null value to this particular field. And email, and which is of a type of a text, and this is of a not null and also of a unique value. So this email is our unique value that we are going to insert. So if we try to insert a duplicate, we should get an error. And then finally we have a phone. This is a type of column name is phone, and that should be of a phone, and type is of integer, and it should be of a not null. So then I think I need to close the bracket over here. That should be fine. Okay, I think that should be the fine. And the next, still we need one more query over here. I think the query name that we can give is something like, let's say constant val and destroy, destroy, let's say a query query. This destroy will be used to delete a table itself. So I'll just say drop the table if exists, exists, and give the table name. So this is the object that we have created over here, entity object. this will be our column name that we are going to insert, and these are the queries that we are going to run. So this is whenever we are first creating a table. So whenever we want to create this particular table, we will be using this query, and whenever we want to destroy or drop that particular table, we will be using this query. So I think that's all for this lesson. Hope you learned something over here, and it may not be so confusing, but if you are just a beginner and if you don't have any SQL background, so it may be a bit confusing. Try to just go and practice it more, and try to just do some research on the Google about the SQL query, or basically on the SQLite query, so you should have some more better understanding what I'm actually trying to do. So that's all. Let's meet up on our next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello and welcome back. So let us continue with our lesson. And in the previous lesson, we created our variable over here that we'll be using for our database table, and these are the query that we had created previously. So let us work with our database now. So just create a new class inside this DB package, and we'll call this one as something like a DB HELP helper or anything that you wish, but I'll just be specific that it is a DB database helper class, and just create that class. And this will take one parameter of our context, because we want to use a context over here. So it should come from the Android.content. Okay, and then this should also extend the SQLite open helper, and this comes from Android.database.SQLite. So make sure you extend this class, and here we have to pass some of the parameters. So first one is the context that we get, and then we need a name of the database, and then this should be of SQLite a cursor factory and the database version. Since this is this all variable, we need a private one. That's why we will create inside this class. Otherwise, if we need it to be we need to access it from the other classes, then we should create some of the util class. From there we can set it, but for now we just need it as a private. So I'll just say as a companion object, and inside this companion object I will create some of the private val, or private, let's say a constant. This should be a constant val of let's say db underscore name. This should be of a name of our database. So let's say a employee employee, database name is as an employee, and private constant val of let's say our db underscore version, version version, it should be of a 1. So we have a current version of a 1. So later if you want to change a version 2 or version 3, you can come back and change over here. So now this should be also a private val, because we need to access it over here, and then we need to pass the db name over here, and then the SQLite database.cursor factory, it can be of a nullable, so I'll just say as a null, and then I will say as a version as a db version. Okay, so now that's it. Now we need to override some of the members over here on create and on upgrade. So let's override this to function over here. On create is called when we want to create that particular table. So currently we have just one table, so that's that query we need to run over here. So whenever we want to create a table, then we want to run it over here. And then this is on upgrade. So whenever you change, like whenever you add a new column to your table, or you change something like name of the column, so you want to recreate a table, right? So we have to recreate a table. At that time we change the version code, and then we upgrade that one. So let's run that query over here. So what we have a database over here already, db. So we just say db. If it is not null, then we will execute the SQL query. Now we need to pass the query as a string over here. Since we have already created a query that is over here, create query, we'll just pass that one. So how do we get that? The employee entity dot the create query, we'll just pass it that one. So that's it. So that will create the table for us. and then the next thing is on upgrade. So what we need to check is we have a DB. If it's not now, then we just go and execute the SQL query again over here, and then we need the employee dot, we need a destroy query that will just drop our table. And then the next thing is that we need to call the on create again. So on create and pass the DB. Why? Because now we have dropped the table already, so we don't have any table, and then we have to recreate that particular table. So let's say if you updated anything over here, then we need to recreate that particular table. So that's why after you drop that table, we need to recreate that table. For that, we need to change the version code. So current version is 1. Let's say you change something over here, and then we should call this function. It should call this function because the version has been changed over here. So later we will see that how we can actually make use of the version change over there. So I think that's all for this lesson. In this lesson, we created a DB helper class where we override this to particular function to create our table and also to destroy. So here we also need to add other queries like to add, update, delete, and get the employees. So we need to create some of the more queries over here, and let's meet up in the next lecture where we will be doing all of this stuff. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back, and let us continue with our lesson. So what we will do now is we'll try to create one function that function will insert a record to our database. So let's go and continue. So I'll just create a function and then just call it as add employee or anything that you prefer. I'll just call it as add employee, and then this should take a parameter of the employee because we need this object to insert to our record. If you go to this employee, it is a data class that we had previously created. And then if you want to return a result, then you can return a long, because whenever you insert a record, it will give return the record ID that you have inserted. So if you have inserted in the record of the 10, it will return the value as a 10. So that should be of a type of the long. And depending on your requirement, if you want to return a value, you can return. Otherwise, you can just leave it as the return type as a unit over here. So now we will just create some variables. So let's say var first of all, and I'll just say our result that we want to return, which is of equals to, by default I'll just give as a -1, because which means that it's not successful. And I'll just say our val and just a db, which is of equals to this dot writable database, because we want to write to this particular database. That's why we want a writable database. And then another one is val and contnt content values, which is of equals to contnt content values. So content values is just nothing. It's just return us the map array. So if you could just go and check this out, just control and click over here, you can say it's returning us the array map over here. And if you go to this map, you can see that it's an array map which takes a type which of string and the object. Right, so it's just an array map. So since this is an array map, we can just add or put a value inside this map. So I think content values. Okay. So now what we have a content values. Now what we can do is content values dot put. So here when we put it, we have to pass a key as a string and the value as the type. So the key and the value. So we have already defined it over here in the entity class. So we have defined the already column name, so we have to pass this one particularly. And then we say the key is, you can just type the key on the string and just pass that particular value like a name, right? So you can just pass it as a name, but we will use this particular entity class so we don't mess it up with the name of the column. So that is a best practice that we can perform. So let's try not to hard code anything over here, because later if you have to change the column if you change the column name over here, then you have to come back and refactor all of this class wherever you have this particular value. So basically we'll just use a employee entity and the dot the name, because that is the best practice, and then we need to pass the value. So value will be employee that we are getting dot, I'll just pass the name over here. So let me just duplicate this one for the name, email, as well as I need to change to the email over here, and then of phone, right? And then I have a phone over here. So we just need to insert a 3 value. If you go over here, we just name, email, and the phone. So now we have that the content values. Now we can insert the record to our database. So how do we insert the record to our database is let's go and just make use of a try catch block over here, because it may throw it. I want to throw an error if the it is catch if there is something wrong. So I'll just say error as en SQLite. I will check some SQLite error over here, constraint exception. I think the constraint exception, you can throw a multiple catch block over here. I just want to show you the constraint exception, because if we try to insert a duplicate record, then it should show, because we have made this one as a unique over here, right? So the email is of a unique. So let's say we insert a duplicate email address, then it should give us that constraint error over here. That's why I'm trying to show you that one. And then I think we will just make a db.insert or throw, insert or throw. So if it is not success, then just go through the throw this particular exception block, and then insert, and it will take the table name. So first of all, I need to pass the table name. So table name, I can get it from here. So table name is here. So just employee entity dot the table name, and then second I need to pass the nullable column, which is a type I just pass as a null over here, and then finally I need to pass the content values over here. So I'll just pass the content values. That should be fine. And then if it is an exception, then I'll just toast a message, toast, right, dot. Then I'll just make a text over here, and I need the context. I already have a context, so I'll just make use of that context. And the message, so message is e dot the message I'm getting over here, and then toast dot the, I'll just say as a long, and finally I'll just show that one. So now we have this block, and then finally what I need to do is I just need to return the result that we have. So currently we haven't assigned this result, so I just need to assign this result over here. Okay, so that's fine. So now we have this function where we can where we will be using it to add a value to our database. So I think that's all for this lesson. On the next lesson we will go and see how to add a function to update our record. So till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue, and in the previous we have added this particular function to add an employee. So next is we will add a function to update our record. So what we will do now is we'll just go over here, and let me minimize that one, and let me add a function over here to update employ, update the employee. So employ employee. So just update the employee, and here we will pass the employee itself, right? And then this one, let's say we have a return type of the int, and then what we will do now is we will add the same like a previous one, var, and just RESUL to result, which is of equals to, let's say, a default value of a -1, and then I also need a database, right? So db, which is of equals to this dot the writable database, because we need to write to a record to our database. And then we will need a val and content values, which is of equals to content values. And content values is map array, so we can just put a value inside that one. So I can just say content values dot put. This is a map, and it will take a key and a value. So key value, I just need to pass the key. So emplo employee entity, right? So I'll just pass the employee entity dot the, I want to update the name, right, comma, and this is of employee dot the name. So I can just duplicate for the other two, which is of the email, and here I need to pass the email to, and here is of the phone, right, and then I pass it as a phone over here. So now we have the content values. Then next is to update it. So how do we update is I can just call the db function db dot update, right, and I will just say update it, and then I need to pass the table first of all. So emplo employee entity dot the table name, and then second it will take the content values. So I'll just pass the content values, and here it will take the where clause, right, and as the where args over. So I need to create a two more variable over here, which is of where args, which is of a where clause, which is of a string, and the where args is a type of the array. So I need to create that two variable over here. I'll just say val, I think, or the val, and we'll just say as a where clause, where clause, right, so which is of equals should be of the string type. So let's keep us a string, and I can just dollar, and inside this I will just get the employee entity dot the id where clause, the employee id, which should be equals to the value that we are passing. So where clause where, so update or set where the employee id is of the where args that we are passing. So val where where args where args, and that should be of equals to, it should be of array type. So array of, I need to pass the array of, and here I need to pass the value. So that should be of a dollar. I have a employee dot the id that I'm passing. So this, let me arrange it properly. So where clause where the employee should be of the particular employee id. So if you have a multiple where clause, then you just add in here where employee id is equals to the employee id that we are passing, and or condition that you can also put, or the some other condition. So you can just put it inside the where clause, which takes the string type. So just create a query on the where clause, right? So, and then here in the where args, we just pass the parameter that we need to pass over here. So this employee id that we are getting from here. So whatever employee id we are passing, it's taking that. If that match, then we should go and update that query. So I'll just say where clause and the where args, just add it over here. So that's the thing that we just have to add over here, and then we'll just do a I think I need to do a db.close, because we don't want to keep the database open, because we have opened it over here. This is the writable database, and then I need to, after close, I can just return the result, right? So I need to set the result over here, result result, and I get that particular result. Sorry, should be of a db, and then what it says, convert the found the long, so required long, so I need to convert it to the long over here. Is that the one? It says a mismatch. So what is the mismatch over here? The expression convert it to the long. Okay, so it's returning as a long. No, it should return as an int. It should return as an int, and here we have converted it to the long. Okay, that's the problem. Okay, so that should be fine. And now I think we need to also fix this one particularly because we haven't closed it over here, right? So we need to close the db over there. So whenever we get something, I'll just try to db dot close over here, and also over here I'll just close the, and I'll just say over here finally block and db dot the close, and I can just remove that one from here. So I think that should be fine. And here we have update function that will update a record based on the employee ID that we are passing. So I think you guys understand it, and just try to practice more and you will be more familiar with this clause. It may be a bit confusing at the beginning if you are not familiar, but it will make a sense later when you actually try to implement this one. So try to practice more, and we'll meet up on the next lecture where we will add a function to delete a record. So till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back, and let us continue. So we have created a function to add as well as to update the employee, but next is we'll add a function to delete a employee. So I'll just say delete employee employee, and here we'll just take a one parameter of our id as a type of a int, because we just want to find a record based on that id and delete it. And then return type, we need the int over here if you want to return type, and it's the same. I'll just say val. I will call it as I think I'll just say var, and our result which is of equals to, I'll just call it -1 default value, and our val of our database which is of equals to this dot the writable database. And then what we want to do is, after that we have, and we will need a where clause. So if I try to insert a db dot delete over here, or db dot delete, if you say delete, it takes a table name and the where clause and the where args. So if a table name is over here emp employee entity dot the table name, comma, I need to create a where clause and the where args. Where clause is of string and where args is a type of the array. So we have already created previously that one. We will just follow the same procedure over here. I'll just say val where clause, and that is of equals to string, and where is what is a where. So we need to update the based on the employee ID. So emp employee entity dot I need ID over here, and that ID is of equals to the query parameter that we are passing, and then val where args which is of equals to, I need to pass the array over here, so array of, and then I need to pass the particular ID that we are getting over here. This is the ID that we're getting and passing it over here as a parameter for the where args, where the ID is of this ID as matched with the employee ID, then delete our record. So I will just pass the where clause in the where arg over here, and then I need to close the database. So db dot close it. Alright, and then finally I need to return the result, and sorry, every time I forgot to add that value. So result which is of equals to db dot delete. And if you want to actually check what is going on behind this particular function, how it is executing, like delete, or if you have update over here, and also for the insert. So if you want to know what is actually happening behind the scene, right? Behind the scenes there is going something, because we are not writing a SQL query over here, and everything is done behind the scenes. So that is the best way, because it will prevent a SQL injection for us. And if you want to know actually what is the query running behind, you can just go and check this delete function, control and click over here, and you can see there is a SQL statement over here which is taking a new SQL statement, SQLite statement, and it says the database is of DB and this current database, and it is running a query. So delete from the table name that we are passing over here, right? the table name that we are passing, delete from the table, delete from table, right, and the text util the empty where clause. So where clause that we are passing, like whatever we are passing, the where clause, where the employee ID, right, where the employee ID over here, and then the each of equals to the args, where args that we are passing, which is of the ID that we are passing. And similarly, if you want to check for the update query, you can just see the update query, it is running over here. So these are all of the things that you can go and take it on your own, right? So this will take some time to understand, like update with conflict is over there. So many other type of query, SQL, execute SQL query. So you can just try to understand over here if you want to understand more about what it is actually doing behind the scenes, right? So I think that's all. So we have added the 3 function already. So we still need 2 more function, I guess. One is to get all of the employee, and the another is to get a single employee based on the record ID. So that's it, and we'll meet up with the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hi, hello everyone, and welcome back. So let us continue with our lesson, and in this section we will go and learn about how to get or select all of the employees, as well as to retrieve the single employee. So we have already 3 functions that is defined to add, update, and delete the employee. So let us get started and work with our function to get the employee employees, which will return all of our employees in the form of the list, and that should be of the employee, right? Emp, not the entity, it should be of the employee. Okay, so we have this list of, it should return the list of employee, and first of all we'll say val, or I think it should be of a var, and let's say a val of db, and that should be is of equals to this does the readable database. We don't want a writable because we are not going to write anything to our database. And let's say val emp list, employee list, which is of equals to array list, and this should be of the type of the employee, right? So we just have a list of the employee now. And the third thing that we need is a val, let's say a QUERY query, which we need to write a select query. So SEL is select, what we say can say select everything from the table name. So we have a table name on the employee entity dot the table name, and we can also say that order, order by the, let's call that the employee entity dot, we need the ID. So we want to order by ID in a DSC, descending order. So why we need the descending order? Because when we insert it, we are inserting in the row 1, 2, 3, 4, but when we want to get back, we want on the 4 to the top, 3, 2, 1. So we want in a descending order. So if you are not familiar with the SQL query, make sure you just go and Google search and try to understand some of the SQL queries before you try to actually learn this section, because you need to understand what we need to select, and then only you can actually get the record. If you cannot understand the query over here, then it may be a bit confusing for you. Just make sure you search on the Google about the SQL queries, and just learn a simple select, update, all of those basic queries. And then we will do another thing over here. What we need is val, and I'll just say we need the CUR is here cursor, CUR is here cursor. So cursor, which is of equals, since we have db already, I can just say db, and it's dot, I can just say raw query, because we want to write a raw query. And then I can just pass the query that we have over here, comma, and the second parameter with selection arg, we just can pass the null over here. Okay, so now we have a cursor. I think the spelling is not correct. CURSOR, cursor. Okay. Now since we have a cursor, then this will give us the cursor, and we need to iterate through it. So first of all, we will check the cursor. If it is not null, then we will just go and run our query over here. So now I can just say if what we are checking is if the cursor is not null. Since we are running this query, then it should return us the cursor, and we'll just check if the cursor is not null, then we'll go and run our other conditions. So cursor dot, we have a column count, which gives us the number of columns that we have. If it is greater than the 0, then we are good to go over here. And I'll just say that if the cursor dot move to first, we will just get, we want to move to the first record of the cursor, and we will just say when we move to the first of the cursor of, when we move the cursor to the first record, then what we want to do is we want to loop through all of the record, and I'll just say do, and I just want a do when, do while, right? Do while loop, and the cursor dot move to next. So move to next. Since if this is true condition, then just move through all of the record, and then I just need the val. I need the ID which is of equals to cursor dot the, we need to get the int from here because the ID is of the type of the int. So I'll just say cursor dot get the column index, right? So column index, and I need to pass the column name. So where is the column name? I can get from the employee entity dot, I need a ID from here. Okay, so val, I need the another one, it's a name, so which is of equals to cursor dot, I need a get string, sorry, not this sort, get string, and the, I need to pass the column index. So cursor dot the get the column index, and I need to pass the column name. So employee entity dot, I need a name from here. So for now I can just duplicate this line for the name email, 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 and I also need to pass the email over here, and over here I need a phone, and it should be of I think we have passed the integer type, so I just say get int, and over here we just need to pass the phone. Okay, so now we have all of the record that we want, and now I can add this one. I need to add this record, so whenever we loop it, I need to add to our list over here. So we have this list dot, I can just add the employee over here. So ID is of the ID that we have, and I can just pass all of this. So now we have the record and created and added, so it will loop through and add it to the list over here. And then finally what I can do over here is I need to close the cursor dot close. I need to close it, right? Otherwise you will get some warning over there. That we count is to see yellow close. Cursor dot close, we need to close, and also I need to close the database. So db dot close. So that is a good practice because your connection is not open after all of your query run. So this is a good practice that you close your cursor as well as the database connection. That will prevent the memory leak. And finally I can just return the, I have the EMP list over here. So that will return the employee list for her, and our function to get the employees is ready. So the next function will be to get a single employee. So let's meet up on our next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hi there, and welcome back, and let us continue with our lesson, and let us add a function to get a single employee. So let me just minimize that one, and I'll just create a function to get the employee employee, and then I will just pass the ID over here, and with this ID we will search the employee. So I will pass the type as a int, and it should return us the employee for us. Okay, so we got that one. Now I will create some of the variable I need. I will just say var, and I need the ID which is of equals to type of the int, so I need to pass it over here as a 0. Okay, let me close this one first of all, and let me open it back. And then okay, I need a var, and then is a name, and we'll just give us a default value as a empty string, and another one as a var as a email, which is of equals to empty string, and the var, and I need a phone, so var phone, that should be also of the type of the 0. Okay, so now we got that one, and I can now create a var, and I'll just call it as a employee employee, which is of equals to, I'll create a employee over here and pass all of the ID and just pass all of this. So now we have our empty employee that we can return later, and then I need a val db, which is of get the, okay, I just need a readable database over here. So now I have the database, and next is the val. I need a query query, which is of equals to, I'll just select select what we need is select everything from, I need a table name, so emp employee entity dot the table name, select everything from this particular table. Then I need to use a where condition, where, the, I need to get the where the employee dot the ID, where the employee ID should be of equals to the ID that we are passing. So we should get that particular ID and pass it over here, and then we will just write get the val cursor, and that should be of the db dot the raw query, and we'll just pass the query that we have, and the second parameter as the null. Okay, so now we, not the name, it should be of a null, right? Okay, so now we got this one, and then we will just check for the cursor. If the cursor is not null, then just we'll just go and run this command. And I'll just check for the if condition over here. If the cursor, right, cursor that count, column count, if the column count is greater than 0, that means we have some record, then we can just go and get the first record. So I can just say cursor dot move to the first, because we are just interested in the first record that is fetched by this particular query. So move to the first, and then we will assign all of the ID, it is of equals to cursor dot get the int, and then I need to pass the column. So I think I can just copy this condition over here and paste it, and I just duplicate, and I just do it for the name, cursor that get the string, right? So get a string, and index that I need a name over here. Here also get the string, and then I need to pass here as the name as the email, so it should be of the email over here, email, email. And finally we have a phone, and then that should be int type, and I need the phone from here. And then we can just add that one to our emp employee, and which is of equals to employee, and I can just add all of the value that we have fetched. Okay, so we got that one, and then finally what we have to do over here is we have to close the cursor. First of all, cursor CLO is close, and then I need to close the db dot the close. So I need to close the database too, right? And then okay, so this should be inside the let condition over here, not the offside of the let condition. And then here is the return type. Return, I need to return the employee from here. Okay, so that should be fine. Why it is giving me some warning? So name ID. Because I need to explicitly mention the type as a int over here. And oh no, I think because this ID and this ID is the same that we have. So I think I need to change this one to emp ID. That should be fine, I think. So I just change it to emp ID, and here in the condition I'll just pass that emp ID. Now I can remove this one. Okay, so that should be fine. So now we have another query ready. So we have all of the query to get the employee and the list of the employees to add, update, and delete. So our DB helper class is, I think we can move on with this one. And the next step is, I think we need to work with our UI where we can fetch the record for us. So let's meet up on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello, hi, and welcome back. So let us continue with our lesson. And the next thing what we will do is we'll go to the home view model, and we'll try to add a function that will actually go and insert a record to our database. And if we go to the layout section over here on the home fragment home, we have a small form that we can utilize that one. So let's try to open the layout. Yeah. So we have a name, email, and the phone. So we need to insert this data to our database. And before we can work with our fragment over here, let's go to the build.gradle script for the app label. And we'll try to enable a view binding function. So I'll just say UILDFATURE build features, and I will enable view BINDI view binding. This I will set it to true. So this will enable us the view binding, so we don't have to make use of the find view by ID. So that will be quite verbose. So let's just make use of our view binding, and that should be more user friendly for us. And let's wait for the Gradle build to synchronize. Then we can go to our layout over here, and then we can just add a view binding over there. So I'll just go on to the top over here, and I'll just say private let init var, and I'll just say bind binding, and that should be of fragment fragment. It should be of home binding. Yeah, we got that one. So now we have this one. So let's try to implement this one. I think, yeah, after the view model. Currently we are not using the view model, just leave it as it is. Binding is equals to fragment home binding that let us inflate it instead of the bind. So I'll just call the layout inflator, and that should be fine. And here I can remove this section, right? And then I'll just call the return the binding dot the root from here. Okay, so now our view binding is enabled over here. Now we can just go and add a function. So I'll just go over here, and I'll just call the private function and call it as add employee, add employee. Okay, so let's try to add the employee. First of all, we will have to add a get the value. So just I'll say val, and the name, we need a name that should be of coming from the binding dot. We have a txt name, right? And I just get the text from here, text dot to string, and I just can duplicate this one. I need for the name email, and that is the another one is the phone. And now I can just say txt email, and I can just say txt phone, right? So I get all of those values. Now I can check, I need to check whether the value for this name, email, and phone is empty or null. So I need to check, we don't want to insert an empty record. So I can just go and check the when condition over here. So if I say the name, if the name is equals to the empty string, then I will just go and give an error message. I can just call the binding dot. We have a input layout name dot. I will just give an error, error or error message, and I will just give a name as name. I will just say as cannot be a name cannot be empty. Name cannot be empty. Okay, and similarly we can do for the email. And if the email is of equals to the empty over here, then we can just go and say that the binding dot the input layout the email dot we have our error, which is of equals to, I'll just call it as a email emails, cannot be empty, right? And then finally I have for the phone, and which is of equals to, if it is equals to empty string, then we are going to go and say that the binding dot uh, phone input layout phone dot the error that we get is of equals to, I'll just say phone CANNOT phone cannot be empty. And then what we can also do is we can just clear it out the previous error if there is an error. So if there is an error, I can just remove this to empty over here. So if the name layout before, first condition is to check this one. If it is passed and the first time it was an empty, if got an error, second time it should clear it out that error because it move on to the email. So similarly we have to do the same thing for our email over here. We have to say as the if it is of empty, as well as for our name error should be of the empty. Why I'm doing this one is because first it will check this condition now, and then maybe the first time you did not enter the name, and then the second time you entered already, and then it will check for these conditions. If you didn't enter anything over here, then this will also, the error will remain over here, so we will clear that error because this already passed, condition is already passed. After that, if this condition passed, we need to clear out the both the error message, and then on the we can have to pass the else part over here. If everything is okay, then sorry, else condition is here, then we can just say I can just prepare the val employ employee, which is of equals to emp employee, and then here I can pass the name, which is of equals to name that we have, and I'm using a name parameter over here. So if you are not familiar with the name parameter, this is called a name parameter that we are passing over here. So the second I just need to pass as an email, which is of the email that we have, and finally we have for the phone, and that should be of the phone. If I never pass the name over here, the parameter name over here, then I also need to pass the ID. So we don't want to pass ID because it is auto generate, so that's why we are making use of the name parameter over here. So now this phone needs to be converted to the int because that is of the int. Okay, so pass this to the int, that should be fine. And now since we have the employee, I can just call the I need to call the database. So for that, what we need to do is we need to create a database. Currently we have not created a database, so let's go and add a private, I'll just call it as a let init var, and I'll just say db helper, and that should be of the db helper that we have. And now I can just go and call this db helper, and dot I can add the employee, right? So I can just call this employee and pass this employee over here. Okay, so we just passed that one, and now this will return us the result. So if you go over here, you can see it will return us the result, which is of type is of the long. So I'll just say val resql the result, which is of equal, so I get back the result over here, and I will just say that if the result, right, I need to check if the result is greater than 0, right, which means that the record was inserted, and then we can just say that I give a toast dot the make the text, and I need to pass the context, so I'll just add it to UI require context, and I can just say that new record INSVR inserted to employee table. Sorry, I can just say to employee table, and I can just pass the value that we are getting as a result. Okay, and then I'll just call it as a toast dot the long. I think that should be fine, and then finally show it, and then I think that should be fine. And okay, so let me just arrange it properly. Okay, so let me arrange it. Okay, so after that, what we need to do is we need to clear the text. Sorry, not the text, is a text. Clear the text. So for that, I just need to call the binding dot. We have the name, first of all, name dot text, and if it's not, check for the null and just clear it. Clear the value. So I just need to clear it all the values for the txt email too, and also for txt phone. So we'll just clear it out. If we still try to test this, it will not work because we haven't implemented the database helper. So on the next lecture, we'll go and implement the database helper. So till then, have a great day. Yeah, hi there, and welcome back. So let us continue. And now we need to implement this database helper. So for that, what we will do is we will just go to, I think I'll just add a new class over here on the top level package over here, and call it as my application, or any class name that you want to give. I'll just keep it as my application, and this will extend the application class. Sorry, application class. And okay, so when we extend this application class, we can say on create. So I can just call that on create. So this application class will run before all of our activity or the fragment or any of the service that is running by this application get created. So this is the first class that will be created before all of the other like when you run your application, this is the first class. Just remember, this application class is the first class that will be created for us. So we want to initialize the database over here, so we don't have to recreate it every time. So I'll just have a single instance. Let's say let init var, and I'll just say db helper. Yeah. Okay, and then when it is on create is called for this application, I can just say the db helper is equals to database helper, and I need to pass the context, so I can just pass the application context. So now the database helper instance will be created at one time, only single time, when our application gets created. So this is a singleton instance. It's not a best practice, but if you want to do some best practice, we can make use of like a dependency injection, right? So these are some advanced topic that we need to learn, but for now we are just fine. We just want to create a single instance over here whenever our application is created for this database helper. And now I can just the next thing is that I'll just go to the manifest over here, and I'll just call the name. I think I just have to add the name, and I'll just call it as register it on our application class over here. Okay, so we have registered that one. And the next thing is that now I go to the home fragment here, and here now what I can do is I can just actually directly call that one. So I'll just say not the let unit, I can just say val, I think, yeah, val private val db helper, and that should be of the just initialized by lazy. So initialized by lazy, and I'll just say I need to get require activity dot the application. I need to get the application as the my application class, and then I can just get that particular DB helper. Okay, so now we have a DB helper, and this should create for us the instance of the database helper, or get the instance of the database helper for us, and then we can utilize it over here. And then the next thing that we have to do now is I'll just go and override the on create view, I think on view created. So on view created, so since all the view is created over here, we can just click that button to insert it. So let's go over here and call that the binding dot the fab add dot set on click listener, and then I can just call the add the employee function over here. Now that's it. Now we can run our application and test it out. So the app is running over here, and what we'll do is we'll try to add some record test1, and we'll just call it as let's say test1 at gmail.com, and the phone we'll just say like something random number over here, and just add that record. Okay, so the new record inserted to employee table 1. And if I try to, okay, so we got clear that one, and let's try to add a test, let's say 2, and then I'll just say as test1 at gmail.com, and I'll just give us some random number over here, and just try to add that one, and you can see that unique constraint employee email got error because this email is already inserted. So that is the error that we were previously trying to catch. If you go to the database helper over here, and that is the one that we are actually getting it over here. So if you take a look, if you test it again, you will get that particular unique constraint fail. And if you try to add a test2 over here and try to add that one, you can see the new record inserted to employee table, and we get the record ID 2. So now we have successfully implemented our add record. The next is to get the list of the record in our database from to this dashboard over here. So let's meet up in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hi there, and welcome back. So let us continue, and the next thing that we have to do is we need to implement the adapter for our recycle view. So let's go to our dashboard over here and add a new package over here and call it as adapter adapter, and let us create a new class over here and call it as employee adapter adapter. Okay, so we got this class, and inside this I'll create a nested class. So let's create a Kotlin nested class and call it as employee view HOL view holder, and it will take one parameter as a bin binding, and we'll call this was as employee item binding. So employee item binding is coming from here, so employee item binding, so we'll take that one. So we have employee item binding, and this should extend the recycle view dot the view holder, right? And here we have to pass the view. So let's get the binding dot I get a root from here. Okay, so we got that one, and then I'll create one function over here and call it as on bind, and I'll get a parameter of the data of the employee over here. So let's get the employee, and this should be of the, let's say, val, and then we can exit over there. So let's access the binding dot. I have a lb of the id dot text, which is of equals to, I can get it from the data dot id dot to string, and then the next is of the binding dot, we have the lb name, I think lb name dot the text, which is of equals to data dot the name. And okay, so I still need the another one for the lb of the email, and it should be of the email. And then finally I have a binding dot lb phone dot the text, which is of equals to data dot the phone dot to string. Okay, so we got that one. Now we have this nested class, and this, the outer class, should extend the recycle view dot the adapter, and in the adapter we need to pass the type of the view holder. So we will pass our employee view holder that we just created, and then this should let us initialize, and I need to implement all of the member function. So I have to implement all of this. Okay, so I'll just cut this section and put at the bottom over here. And okay, so that should be fine. And so if you are not familiar with the recycle view and the recycle view adapter, just go and check out my other videos about how to implement a recycle view. I think I have one small course in the YouTube itself. Just make sure you go and check out that video if you don't understand what I'm actually trying to do here. So we are not learning about the recycle view and the recycle view adapter, all of this stuff. So that's why I'm not explaining all of this stuff. If you want to learn more of this detail, you need to go and check out my other videos on the recycle view. And then what we will do is we'll also implement a diff util for our recycle view. So I'll just say a private val, and I'll say diff util, diff util, and it should be of equals to, I need to implement the anonymous class over here using an object of the diff util dot the item callback, and to pass the type over here. The type is of the employee that we want. Okay, so then we need to implement the all of the members over here. So we have a two, our item the same, and our item our content the same. Okay, so here what we need to do is we just need to return what we need to return our item the same. So item the same, so old item dot the id is equals to just check for the new item dot the id, and then over here we will just return return the old item is equals to new item, because the content, so we are just checking for content, and here we are checking the item. So if you are not familiar with the diff util over here, make sure you go back and check my recycle view adapter course, where I have implemented all of those and explained in more great detail over there. So I'm not going to explain here on the more detail over here, because that's going to take a lot of time. Just try to understand that our item the same, we just have to check whether the unique ID that we have, like let's say in our employee, the unique ID that we have is the ID, and then we'll just check whether these two items, the old item and the new item that we are passing to the adapter, is the same or not, based on this condition, and also over here. So we have a diff util now. What we need to do is I will just create one function somewhere here, I think. Let's add one function over here, and I'll just call it as set employee, because we need to pass the data from the fragment over here. So I'll just say new item, and that should be of the list we will pass a list of the employee, because we are getting a list of the employee from our database. So we'll just pass it. And now I need to implement async default over here. So let's go and add it over here. So I think I will add somewhere here. So I'll just say private. I will just say val and async list. Sorry, it should be of a private val as. Did I create it somewhere here? So private. Okay, class. And then yeah, I think I'll just create a below over here. So it should be of a private val, and I'll just say async list diff which is of equal to async list default, and then the type that we'll pass is type of the employee. And then in the constructor we need to pass the recycle view adapter. So this is the recycle view adapter, and also the diff util item callback. So we have already the diff util that we have created over here, right? So that is the one, and I think we can just move it somewhere over here, I think. Yeah. And then what we need to do is here I can just pass the async this list default that submit the item that we are getting. So this will implement all of the finding of whatever logic that we have implemented over here. So that's fine. Now the next thing is that we have to do is we need to get the item count, right? So I can just say which is equals to async list default dot the current list dot the I can get the size. That should return the item count, and the we need to implement the on create view holder. So we need to implement the on create view holder first of all. Let's create a val, and I'll just say binding, which is of equals to employee item binding that we have implemented, and dot I can just say inflate, and I need the layout inflator from, and that should be from the parent dot context, and then the second that we will pass is the parent over here, the view group, and the attached to parent is of the false, right? So fal false. Okay, so now we have a binding itself, and then now we can return the employee view holder and pass the binding over here, because if you go to this class over here, it's taking the binding, right? So we just pass the binding over there. Okay, so now we have passed create view holder is ready. The next thing is the on bind view holder. So on bind view holder, I'll just pass the holder that we have, holder dot on bind, and we'll just pass the we need to pass the data. So I'll just we need to get the data and pass it. So how do I get the data? Is the async list default that I just get the current list, and here I can pass the particular position to get the current data from our employee. So I think that's the thing that we have to set up over here, and I think look like everything is ready. And what does it change? It can be of a private. Okay, so that should be fine. And okay, so let me arrange it properly. So the adapter is ready for us. So next thing is that we need to implement this adapter in our fragment. So let's do it in our next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello everyone, and welcome back. So let us continue. And since we have created our adapter already, it's time for us to implement. So what I will do is I'll just create a private let init var, and I'll just call it as an employee adapter. And then we also need a private let init var, and I'll just call it as a binding. So bin and ting binding, which should be of a fragment dashboard binding. So we will need that one. And now I can just go over here and call that binding. which is equals to frag fragment employee binding dot inflate, and we will inflate the layout inflator. So now we'll get a binding, and then I can just return the root from here, and I can just remove this one, not check. And then what we will do is over here on view created, I'll override that one. And first of all, we need to initialize the employee employee adapter, and here we will just say employee adapter that we have is just initialize the adapter, and then we will just recycler recycle view that we have, and then we will just call the binding dot the recycle view employee dot apply the function over here, and then we will just say adapter. We need a layout first of all, so we haven't created a layout manager. So let me go and private val layout manager. I think we'll just call it as a linear layout manager, which should be of a linear layout manager, and I'll just say by lazy, and then let us initialize the linear layout manager, and I need to pass the required context over here, and then I can just say that it is the type of the linear layout manager, and I can just say adapter, which is of equals to the employee adapter that we have. Okay, so our recycle view is also set up, and the next thing is that we need to add our list of employee to this particular adapter. So first of all, we need to get a list of employees. So how do we get it? We need a database helper. So we don't have that one. Let me create private val, and I'll just say db helper, which should be of the type of the db helper class that we have, and I'll just say by lazy2, and I need to get a require activity dot the application as the my application class, and then I can just get the db helper. Okay, so we got the db helper, and I'll just go and create a private function over here and say get employee employees, and then we will just call the val emplis the employee something like employee list, and which is of equals to db helper dot get the employees. So we will get the list of employees. After we have a list of employees, then we can just add into our employee adapter dot set employee, and then we'll pass the employee list that we get. Okay, so this function is ready. Over here we'll just call that the get employees employees, and call this function the get employees function. So that should return us the list of the employees and add into our adapter, and I think that should be the one that we all require. And if we try to run our application, and let us try to test it out, and it should be working. And let me go to my and go to the dashboard, and now we can see that we have our list of the employee. And if I try to add a new one, let us try to add a test4, and I'll just call it as a test4 at gmail.com, and here I'll just give some random number, and let's try to add that one. Okay, insert it, and if you go to dashboard, now we have a 4 record. So that's fine, and you can just add some more like a test5, and I'll just call it as a test5 at gmail.com, and the phone some random number, and just add in, and it should also show. Okay, so now we have a 5 record, and the next thing that we have to do is we need to implement the edit and the delete function. So I think let's do it on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello everyone, and welcome back. So let us continue. So let us implement edit over here. So for that, what we'll do is we'll go and create a new function over here. So let me minimize all of this, and let me create a new private function over here and call it as let's say show edit the dialog, and here we should take some parameter, and I think I'll just take as a ID as a type of the int, because we need to get the ID from our database. So based on this ID, we will fetch a record from our database. So we will make use of the material dialog over here, material material dialog, which comes from com.fl state, I think, and the material dialog. So just make use of that one, and we will say just like I need to pass the context over here, and let's pass the context as the required context over here, and then the show. Over here we need to get the custom view, so I need to pass the custom view over here, and you can just go to the documentation of the material dialog that I have already included over here if you want to learn more about the material dialog. So you can just Google search for this material dialog and try to find out the documentation. So that's the homework for you. So I need to pass the custom view over here. So after the layout that I have the dialog edit employee. So this is the custom view that we are going to pass this to dialog. So if you go to this particular view, this is the view that we have. Okay, now we have a custom view, and we will also make use of the data study, the view binding over here. So let's go and add our view binding for this particular dialog edit employee. Let's go on to over here, and I'll just say private let init var. I'll just say dialog dialog, or we can just call it as a edit dialog edit dialog edit dialog binding, and that should be of the I think it should be of the dialog edit employee binding. Okay, so we got that one. Now we have this, and I can just go down and just pass it as the dialog edit binding. Yeah, this is the one that we have to pass it over here, and then just pass the get the custom view. Okay, so we just pass it over here, the custom view that we are setting it over here, and then we are getting it and passing it to our binding. So that should work for us. And the next is val. I need a employee employee, and that should be from the database helper dot get the single employee, right? So we just need to get a single employee, and I'll just pass the ID that I'm getting over here, not the $sign. Okay, so we get the employee over here because we are calling that particular function to get the single employee for based on the ID that we are passing. So we are getting that employee. After that employee is retrieved, then we want to set the value to our the view, right? So what we can do is we can just say the custom, or sorry, we have the edit dialog binding dot, we can get the txt name dot the set text. We can just set this, and then pass the employee dot, we can pass the name, right? Employee that name, and then we have, I think I'll just duplicate this one, I think 3 times just, and then this is of the txt email, and this should be of our txt phone, and here we just need to change our email, and here we need to change it as a phone. So we set the, after retrieve the value, yeah, just comment get the single employee employee by ID, and then we can set the value to our view. Okay, so now we have some button over there. So I just say edit dialog binding dot, we have a fab update button. So when they click on this button, set on click listener, so when they click on this one, we need to update, right? So let us update our record. So val emplo, sorry, val, let's say our name first of all, and we need to get the value from this particular text. So I just get the value from here, dot the txt name dot the text, we get dot to string. So we need to get it, and I just duplicate this one too, and this one should be of our email, and this should be of our phone, right? And then this should be of our txt email, and this should be of our txt phone. Okay, so we got that one. And now since we have all of this, we can prepare for our employee to add into our database. So I can just say a db helper, right, dot update, right? So we need to call the update employee and pass the employee, and then we can just pass the ID that we have. We have the ID that we have to pass is from here, employee dot the ID, and then other thing is the updated value. So we want to get the updated value as a name and email that we have, and also the phone that we have. Phone dot to int. I need to convert it to int. Okay, so then this will update for us. And if you want to get a value, so the result, so I just say val result result, right? If you want to get back the result, so if you go to here, it's returning us the result, right? Sorry, where is that one? Update. Yeah, update is over here. It's returning the value tab as the int. So if you want to get a value, then you can just set it over here, and then we can just say that after we update it, we can just say get the employees again. So call this function, because when we update it, that is has been updated on the database. But then if you want to reflect the immediately, then we have to call this function to get all of the record back from our database. And then finally we will dismiss this particular dialog, right? And then what you can do is we can also add, like, if you can also check the like a result over here, whether it's it is get updated or it has some error. So you can check the based on this result. So if the result is like greater than 0, that means it is updated, or if it is like -1, then there should be some error. So I think that should be the one that we are looking for here for now. So if you want to go and update or change something over here, you can just go and change it. I'll just leave it as it is for now, and later we may come back over here to update it. So we just need to show this one dialog box when we click on that particular edit button, right? So I think let's do it on the next lecture where we will implement that one. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there, and welcome back. So let us continue. The next step is that when we click on this button, we want to show that this particular dialog. So how we can do that is let me go and onto the top somewhere here, and let me create a lambda expression over here. So I'll just say a private val, and I'll just say on edit click. So we'll just say on edit click. This should be a lambda expression, and first of all I need the ID, and that is the type of the int, and the return type I'll just make it as a unit over here, and that should be of this one. Okay, so we got that one, and this is the function that will be called lambda function when we click on that particular edit button over here. So what we will do is we will pass this to our adapter. So where is the adapter that we have initialized? I think somewhere here. So let's pass that adapter. So on edit, I will pass it to my adapter, and on my adapter over here, employee adapter, I will take a constructor parameter over here, and I'll just pass the private val on edit click, or you can just copy, instead of typing you can just copy the same thing from here, just copy up to the unit and then just pass it over here. Okay, so that should be fine. What this actually the lambda expression does is that we are saying that when we call this lambda expression, we have to pass this parameter, and the return type unit means that it's not going to return anything. So this is a simple lambda expression that we are defining over here. And then what we will do now is we will also pass that to our nested class that we have over here, right? So I'll just pass the same over here in the nested class, and now I need to pass, whenever we create the employee view holder, this need to pass over here. So I just can pass the same whatever we are getting as the constructor parameter, we'll pass it over here, right? And then what we can do over here is, okay, so we need to pass the employee ID over. Let us go down to our, where is that function here. So we have this on edit click. So now what we can do is whenever we click on that button, so we have a binding dot, we have a button over here, right? Button edit dot set on click listener. So whenever we call this function, we will call this on edit, right? Call this on edit and then pass the value. So what value we want to pass is the data that we have dot the ID, that will pass it over here. Okay, so that should be the one. Why I'm still getting the error over here, return type mismatch. Okay, so binding is the second and on click is the first, and the binding is the second that I have to pass it over here. Okay, so that should be fine. And then okay, so any other thing that I'm having error, so I think that should be fine, right? And okay, let us try to run our application and let's see whether we have any error over here. And then also on the fragment, when this is called, I need to open this particular dialog. So I can just call that function from here. So edit dialog and pass the value that we are getting. So I just say the ID that we are getting over here, and I'll just pass that ID to here. Okay, so that should be the one. So let me run again, and now when we try to click on that edit button, it should show the edit dialog for us. If I go over here, if you go over here and if I try to edit this one, okay, it just crashed. So let me check what is the error, and here somewhere the text view, get text, right? So here is the one, the phone, txt phone, set text and employee that we are getting. It should be converted to, because this is a number in integer type, we need to convert it to a string, right? Otherwise we will get an error because the set text take a string type, but we are passing as a type of the integer over there. So let me try to rerun one more time and just clear it out, and I hope that should work for us. And let's go to the device one more time and let me edit that one. Okay, so now we got that one. So this is actually fetching a record from the database and populating over here. And now I can just update a number over here and just update it, and you can see that we got updated value. And similarly we can do this one for, let's add up some number over here, just update that one. Yeah, and if I want to update this and I just give some value over here, update that one, and just come back and check everything is working correctly. So which means that now our edit function is working correctly. So the next thing that we have to do is we need to implement the delete function. So let's meet up in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue and let us implement our delete function. So whenever we click on this delete button, that should particularly delete our record. So let's get started, and I'll create a private function over here, and call it as let's say so delete dialog, and here we will also take a parameter of a type of the int type because we need to get the ID in order to delete our record. And then I'll just use a material dialog, and I need to pass the required context over here dot then just show the particular dialog. And then we can also add some formatting over here, and I have given you a small job previously to just go and check the documentation for the material dialog, and I hope you have checked the dialog and the documentation. So we can also set some of the formatting like the corner radius if you want to set the radius of the corner, and I'll just give a let's say a radius of 8, and then I can also set as cancelable, and I can just pass a value as a false, so the user cannot cancel the dialog when they click outside of this particular dialog. And then I can set the title that we want to set. I think I have already a string resource. If you go to the string, and there should be some string resource to set the title, so I think I have a title. Yeah, delete title, so just make use of a delete title over there, and here we will pass the r dot the string and dot I have a delete or title, so just pass that one, and I can pass the message to over here, right? So message, and then I can just pass the null value first of all because we don't want to use the string resource, we want to use a string character over here. So that should be of the, I can get the string resource first of all from the get string, and I can pass the r dot string dot delete, I think delete message. Yeah, there is a delete message. Yeah, do you want to delete this record, right? So let's pass that one, and I'll just pass the record ID number that we are passing. So the ID whatever we are passing over here, we'll just say do you want to delete record and the ID number that we are passing over here, and that should show us the message. And we can have a button over here, so positive button, and the positive button as well as the negative button. So for the positive and negative button, we can also set our own custom text over here, like what to show on the button. So we already have, I think, the string dot we have a delete positive button. So if you go over there, we have a delete positive button to yes and negative button to no. So let us implement that one to over here. String dot delete negative button. Yeah, and when they click on this button, what we want to do is we want to delete. So we have a db helper dot delete the employee, and we will pass the record ID. So I can just pass the ID that we are getting from here, and then I can just dismiss this particular dialog, and also I can get the employee because we need to update our recycle view. And then here I can just simply say dismiss this particular dialog and don't do anything. So you can also get a val result result over here if you want to get the result, because this is returning us the type of the int over here. So -1 means that we got some error when we are deleting that record. Otherwise it will give us the particular row number or the affected row number that has been run by this particular query. Okay, so that should be fine. And if you want to check that result, you can implement it over here. So the next step is to show this particular dialog whenever we click on that particular the delete button. So we have to implement the same concept that what we have done over here. So I will give you a homework or the assignment to just make sure you implement the same concept that we have implemented on the edit click over here. Just implemented our same concept over here for our show delete dialog. So just I will give you this as a homework, and we'll come back on the next lecture where we'll be implementing this one. So make sure you try to do it on your own, and if you cannot, then just don't worry, I will show you it on the next lecture. So till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue. And I had given you a homework or assignment to show this particular dialog box when you click on this edit button, and I hope you were able to do it. And if you were not able to do it, that's fine. So let me go and show you how to implement that one. First of all, we need to create a same concept over here, private val, and I'll just say on delete click, click. It can be any variable name that you want to define here. I'm just saying defining as on delete click, and we just need to pass the type as the int, and the return type is of the unit over here because we are not returning any type. Then we will define the value. So here we will get the ID, right? And ID, sorry, we get the ID, and then we can just call the so delete dialog and pass the ID that we are getting over here. The next thing is that we need to pass it to our adapter, right? So on delete, we'll pass this lambda function, we'll pass it to our employee adapter, and then we can just go to our employee adapter over here and just implement that one. So we can just comma, and I can just say private val on delete click, and that's the same thing, the ID that we have to pass, and it's the type of the int, and then it's the return type each of the unit. Okay, so we got that one, and now we will just copy the same thing, and we have to implement the same thing over here on our nested class of the employee view holder. And here we have to pass that particular on delete click. We have to pass the lambda expression over there, and now we can make use of that one over here. So binding dot, we have a button delete, right, dot set on click listener. Okay, and then we can just call on delete, and then pass the ID that we are getting from here. That's fine, right? So I think that should work, and we will try to run our application for now, and let us hope everything will be okay, because I think that should work for us. And let's go to our device, and let's try to delete a record number 3. So if I try to delete, okay, you can see we get a dialog. It's confirming us that do you want to delete our record 3, and I'll just say no. That means it should not do anything. But if I go and delete our record and say yes, then that should delete our record. And if I come back and just check it, yeah, that's the record, it's gone. So if you want to delete, and you can say that yes, you can see that it's got deleted. So that's all in this lesson, and I hope you guys learned the CURD operation and how to perform it on the SQLite database in the Android itself. So it was a learning point for you. Maybe you did not understand all of the topic over here, but if you practice this one, you will get through it. So practice is the key for your success. So let's meet up in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue, and in this section we will be learning about the relation management. So we'll try to add one more table over here, and we'll try to create some relationship between our two tables, so you will learn some of the basic concept over here. So let's try, and let us try to get started with it. So first of all, if you run your application, we have this layout already. What we need to do is first of all we'll work with the entity. So let's try to create one more entity for our another table, and that should be, I'll create an object over here, and I'll call it as addre address, and I think it should be address enti ty address entity, and then this is an object. So what we can do is we'll create a constant val, and we'll call it as id, which is of equals to like ID, the table ID, row ID, and the constant val will say address, and then that should be of which is of equals to address, and here we will say another one which should be of let's say a table table name. So that should be of equals to, we will say as employee employee, and it should be under a double quote employee employee asterisk. And we'll try to add one more column over here just to refer it to our employee table. So constant val, I'll just say employee employee underscore id, which is of equals to employee employee underscore id. So we will have 3 columns. One is id, employee id, and the address, and then we will have a table name over here. And after we have that, we will create some query over here. So that should be of let's say constant val, and we'll call it as a CREAD create underscore QUERY create query, and this will be a create table, and we want to create a table 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 name to create a table, and then it should be of the $id, which should be of a integer type, and it should be our primary key, and auto and crement auto increment. So this will be of id auto increment and also a primary key, and sorry, not here, over here. Then we have another column which is of the $em employee id employee id, and this should be of integer and not null, so we don't want it null. And then we have one more column that is of dollar. We have a address, and this should be of a text and not null. So text not null. I think that should be all that we need. And then we will also need to create a relationship. So let us create a relationship from this table to our employee table. So what we will do now is over here, create a table id integer primary key auto increment employee id integer not no, it should be not null, and address text not no, it should be not null. And then we will add a foreign key constraint over here. So let's say a comma, and we'll say foreign foreign, then we'll say key, foreign key, and the foreign key will be our current table employee id that we have. This is the employee id that we have. This will be the foreign key, right? Close the bracket over here, and this will do our references references. This will reference to the our dollar. We have I think we have the emplo employee entity dot. We have a table name. So get the table name, and with this table name we will open a bracket, and then we will get the $emplo employee entity dot the id, and then we'll close the bracket over here, and then we will say on delete. What we want to do when our employee is deleted, we also want to delete our address. So let me delete on delete. What we want to do is cade cascade it. So I think it's a bit long, so what I will do is I'll try to arrange it properly over here. Let me try to arrange it over here, not no, and foreign key constraint, and then we will say okay. So that will be, I think, more easy to understand. So what we are doing over here, create a table, name this, and we have an ID which is of integer, and employee ID of an integer, and the address is of a text. And then we assign a foreign key to our employee ID of this address entity, and then it will refer to our employee entity table that we have over here, the employee table dot the employee ID. So this will refer to the employee ID. So on delete, cascade it. So which means that when we create, let's say we create a one employee over here, and that has a link to this address table, and when we delete this employee, that should also delete the address, right? So that is what we are trying to do over here. And then finally we create a constant val of our destroy destroy the QUER destroy query. Then we will just say delete the ELAL, not delete, it should be of a drop, drop the table if EXIST exists dollar table name. Okay, so that is a query that we have. This is really easy to understand, and this is a bit complex, and I hope you will get used to it if you practice more. So our address entity is ready. So let's meet up on the next lecture where we will be creating model, I think. So let's meet up on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hi there, and welcome back. So let us continue, and we have created the address entity, and let us work with the model. So we will go and create a new model over here that will be of a data class, and we'll just say address, and yeah. So inside this address data class, what we need to do is we will have a val ID. So we need this data class later when we want to work with our table, right? So we need to have a same variable that we have in our table column. So whatever is in not this one. So whatever is in our table column, we need to have a same value over there. So ID, this should be of int, and the default value I'll just set to the 0. And val, we have another one is employ employee ID, which is also is of a type of the int. And then we have a val and address, which is the type of the string. So that's the thing that we need on our data class of the address. And we'll also create another data class over here, or the model, that we will use it in our UI. So later when we create a relationship between the address and the employee, then that should give us a new model for us where we will link between the employee and the address. So we will select the employee ID like the address from here, from the address, and we'll select like a name from our name and email from this particular employee model. So we need to create a one more for that one. Later we can use it in our adapter or somewhere in the UI section. So I'll just create another data class, right, and call it as let's say employee employee address. I think that should be fine. And okay, it should be on emp, I think, right? So I think I will just refactor here, and it should be of our employee address. Okay, so over here we will just say I will just need a val, and I will emp ID, let's say this should be of a type of the int. And then we also let us get a name of the employee, and name, and then it should be of a string, and then let us get the val of the ADDR address, and this should be also type of the string. So now that should be the one that we need. So that's simple that we have created address and the employee address over here. Why we created two over here, later you will see that why we need this one later, because when we join the particular two table, we want to extract the employee ID and the name from the employee table, and we want to get the address from our address table. So that's why we need this one. So this is particularly for working with our database schema or the database table, where we need to have an exact value. So I think that's all. So let's meet up on our next lecture, where we'll be working with our database helper to create the CURD operation. So let's meet up on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue with our lesson. And next what we'll do is we'll go to the database helper class over here, and we will add I think we'll add somewhere over here. So let us minimize all of this, we are not going to use for now, and I'll just create a function over here, and we'll add a function to add a address. So that should be the one that we want to add, and this will return us the long, and the value that we want to take is the ADDRESS address, and it should be of the address that we have, not the Android.location, but we need our address. Okay, so that's it, and here we will have a var, and I'll just say a result, so that should be of equals to a default one is of -1, and then we will have a val, and I'll just say db, which is of equals to this dot get the writable database, because we want to write something over there, and I'll just give a try catch over here, and yeah, then I'll just say val CONTNT content values, which is of equals to content values, and then we will just say content values dot the put, because this will accept a key value pair over here. It's just a type, it just return a new array map. So array map is over here with text, one is of string and one is the type of the object. So what we have to do is one is type of the string. So here we will get our the address entity that we have created, right? Dot we have to add the employee ID first of all, and then we will get the employee ID from our address object that we have, address dot the employee ID, and just duplicate this one, and we will just need the address over here, and that should be of the address from here. So just a two column that we have over here, not much. And here we'll just say our result, which should be of equals to db dot insert that we have, and then we have to pass the table name. So ADDR address entity dot the table name, and we need to pass the nullable, so I can just pass the null over here, and the content values. So that is the one that we have to pass over here, and I just need to close the db.close. And why it is getting an error over here? Okay, convert the expression to int. Is it the int that we are getting? Okay, so this would be of the type of the long. Okay, and then here we catch it, and e dot exception, let's take from the Kotlin, and we'll just make a toast dot the make text over here. We'll get the context, and then I'll just give the or get the error from here, if dot the message, and say toast dot the long dot show. Okay, so we got that one, and finally we will return the value of the result from here. So our add address function is ready. So next is we need to create a update address, and let's meet up in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue, and let us add another function over here to update our address, and there we will take the address itself. Okay, and then the return type, you can return the int from here. That should be fine. And I'll just say a val. I will need a db which is of this dot the writable database. Okay, and then I will need a val con content values which is of equals to the content values that we can get, and the content values dot put. What we want to put is we want to update the address. So for that I'll just take a address entity dot the address, right? We just want to update the address, and we get it from the address, the object that we have dot the address. Okay, so we got that, and now we need to create the val, the where where clause, which is of the where condition that we want to put. That should be of dollar. We need the address entity dot the employee ID. So we will filter it out by the employee ID, where the employee ID is equals to the employee ID that we are passing. So val where args equals to it should be the array of, we need the array of over here. It takes the array of element. It should be where args, I think. Like over here we need to pass our array of args. So first we need only one args over here. That should be of the address that we are getting dot the employee ID. So that should be fine, where the employee ID is the employee ID that we are passing. So that's it, and then we can just say val result which is of equals to db.update, and I need to pass the address entity dot the table name, and then I need to pass the content values, and then where args and where clause and the where args. So that should be the one that we need over there. And then finally, don't forget to close the database, and this will prevent the memory leak, and then we will finally return the result that we get over here. So that's it. So we don't have to do so much thing, because we just have a one column to update, that is the address. So that's it, and let's meet up on our next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue, and let us try to add one more function over here that will be to delete our ADDR address, right? So we just want to delete address, and here we'll pass the ID. The type is of the int that we want to delete, and then the return type is of the int, right? So we want to return the type is of the int. And then I'll just say val I will delete a db which is of equals to this dot get the writable database for us, and we will need a val where where clause, and then which is of equals to, it should be of the I need to get the address entity dot the employee ID. We will filter it by the employee ID, which is of equals to the args that we passed val, and I'll just say where args where args, and it should be of our array of, and this should be of the value of the ID that we are passing over there. So that should be inside the string. Okay, so it should be where. Okay, so we have a where args. Now val array SQL result, which is equals to db dot delete. We want to delete, and the table name is of the address entity dot the table name, and then I need to pass the where and the where clause and the where args. So that's it, I think, and then don't forget to close it, close, close, and then finally we will return the result over here. So I think that's all that we need for now. Add, update, and delete. So of course we will need one more to get the list of our address. So on the next lesson we'll go and add a function to get all of the list of the addresses. So till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back, and let us continue. So what we will do now is we will add one more function to get a list of the addresses. So function, I'll just say get the ADDRE address list. So we'll get the list of the address, and this is the type of the return type is of list, and here we will return the model that we have is a employee address. So this is the one that we want to return because we will get the value from the employee table as well as the address table. So emp employee address, I think, yeah, that is the one that we need. Return type, and val, I'll just say address address list, which is of equal to array list that we have, and type is of the employee address. Okay, so we create a new array list over here. Val, we need a db that should be of the this dot the I need a readable only because I don't want to write anything. And the next is I will need a val query query that we are going to create. So I will select first of all and everything from, and first of all I want to mention over here, if you don't understand a query or if you are not familiar with SQL query, make sure you just go and search in the Google like create, update, delete, select, all of this query you try to learn first, because as I'm not going to teach you about the queries, how to write SQL queries, so you have to go and learn it on your own. So there are a lot of topics and websites that where you can learn the SQL queries, so make sure you just go and check it out. So we'll say select everything from our table that is of the address entity dot the table name that we have. We will select everything from here and we'll call it as a t1. So this is just a table 1 that we will call this table. We'll refer it as a t1 for now, and we will join this table, join the we have the employee entity, sorry, employee entity dot the table name that we have. So we will join it to this table and call it as this table, call it as a t2. So t1 is our address table, and now t2 refers to our employee table. So join the employee table as t2, and we want to join on which column? So I want to join on the it should be of a t1 t1 dot I need to refer to the column name. So address entity dot I will need the employee ID from here because I want to refer this t1 employee ID, right? t1 dot employee ID, it should be of equals to t2 dot I will need a employee entity dot the ID. So this is related over here. So join the employee table as T2 on the T1, which is of our address table dot the employee ID is of equals to T2, which is of the employee dot the ID. So that should join the two table for us, right? And then we just want to filter it out or order our sequence. So we will just say order by T1. So T1 is our address table. T1 dot, I will just say the employee entity dot, we will sorry, not the employee, it's T1 is of address. So the address entity dot employee ID. We'll order by this employee ID on a descending order. So that is the query that we are writing. It's quite long, so it may be a bit confusing for you guys. So I'll just give a multi-line over here. Join the employee table as T2, and on this address dot employee ID is equals to the employee dot ID, and I'll just order it by the T1, which is of address dot employee ID on the descending order. So this is our query, and once we have a query, now we will need a val cursor cursor, which is equals to db dot raw query that we want to pass as a query that we have just created, and the second parameter we just have to pass as the null. Okay, now we have a cursor. Now we will check if the cursor over here is not null, then we will just perform our task, and I will check the condition if the cursor dot the column count, so which is the column count, is should be of or greater than 0. That means we have some value over there. And then we will also check if the condition is like a cursor dot it can move to first record. So MOVE, move to first record, right? So we want to move to the first record. If we can move it to the first record, then do while loop. So do something while the cursor dot move to next. So when we have a next record, we will loop over here. So now I'll just go and say val, and I'll just say emp id that we need, which is equals to cursor, right? I need to cursor dot now get the int from here, and I'll say cursor dot get column index, and I need a address entity that I will need the employee ID, and val I will need another one is of the name, which is of equals to cursor dot get the string, and cursor dot get the column index. I will need a employee entity over here dot I need the name from the employee entity. Since we have joined over here, we will get all of the required column by calling this, so we don't have to worry all of those stuff. Val, and I need the address, and now I can say cursor dot get the string, and cursor dot I will need pass the column index that should be of address entity dot I will need a address. So now we got the employee ID, name, and address. So let's add it to our list. So it should be of our address list that we have, right? Dot add it, and we need to add as a employee address, and here we need to pass the employee ID as the employee ID, name, and the address. So that's the things that we have to do over here. And then finally what we will do over here is once it is done, then we will have to close the cursor dot close it, because we don't want it to be kept open. That will cause a memory leak. And also we need to close the db dot close it. And then finally we can return from here our address list that we have created. We have created our address list over here. Now we can return that one. So a bit complex over here, because if you are not familiar with the SQL query, it may be a bit confusing over here. Just try to learn from Google or the online somewhere you can find a lot of the example about the select and the join. Try to understand it, and let's meet up in the next lecture. And if you have some question on it, just do let me know. So let's meet up, and till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello and welcome back. So let us continue, and the next thing is that we will work with our layout, and let us add a new layout over here, or let us duplicate this dialog edit. So we'll add a dialog add to add our I think I'll just copy and paste it, and this should be of a dialog add, and here it should be of the add the address. So just add this one, and then we will just go and just split this one. So first of all, I think I don't need this one, right? So we are not going to use this one. So I'll just delete this one. And this one, why is that one? So I just need this one, so go somewhere to the bottom, and the top one I'll just remove and just select that one. Okay, and then we need to change all of this. First of all, I need to change this one as not the name, it should be of a emp id, and this is also of the emp id, and the hint also should be of the employ employee id. And then I'll just copy this and paste it over here. And this should not be okay, so let me rename this one. First of all, it should be of the address address, and then it should be, let's say, 250 the character max length, and also here txt address, and this one we will also remove and save as address, and the max length 250, and I think others should be fine. And instead of update, this should be of the add. Okay, and then we also need to change the icon, so we need to add the icon too. So just extract the string resource from here. Also this one, let us extract the string resource, and then we will add a one icon. So let me go and add a image asset, and I'll just select, okay, I think this should be the one. So you can just search for LOCA location, and you can just select anyone just like that, and I'll just say action add address. Okay, that should be fine. Just finish that one, and now I can change the icon of this one. So action, let's say add the address. Okay, so that's also fine. If I go to design and I need to change some of the properties, like let's go down and let's select the gravity. First of all, gravity, I will just give it to the start. That should be fine. And then we will select the input type. I need a multi-line text over here, and then after I select the multi-line text, I should go to the minimum line, should be at least of a 4, and the maximum lines, let's say around a 5. Okay, that should be fine, I think. Yeah, minimum line, max line, and the max length, and gravity. Okay, so that should be fine. So our design to add employee address is ready, and then what we need to do is, if I go to the app over here, we have edit and delete. So we will add one icon over here to add the address from this dashboard, because we need to add based on this particular employee ID, right? So for that, we will just go to our list over here. Where is that list? I cannot find that particular list over here. So it should be of the employee item, right? So here we need to add one more icon. So I'll just go to over here, just copy this one and just paste this on the top, and I'll just say button, let's say add the address, and then I will just action add of the address. Okay, I think that should be fine. And if I go to design, so 1, 2, and 3, can I select and change it? Change to the vertical horizontal. I cannot get the clear the constraint selection. I think let me clear it, and then we'll just say button add to somewhere on the top to constraint, and also to the right of the, yeah, I think 0 should be fine, and this one to the constraint to 0, and also I'll constraint to this one, constraint to here, and this one also I'll constraint to the right side first, and that should be for 0, and also to bottom of this edit layout. So let me select all of these 3 for now and chain to the vertical chain. Okay, so that should be fine. So this is it. I need to remove it to some 0, and also this one should be of 0, and this one 0, and okay, that should be fine. So we have added one button, and then you can change the color also. I think we can add a different color, like you can just go and select something a different color. Let's say a green color over there. Okay, so I think that we got that one, and now if we try to run this one, we should get this particular layout. Okay, so I have this one. Why it is so string added more than one time? So I add a multiple time. So let me remove that one. Let me try to run it one more time. So let's wait for the application to come up. I think that should be pretty fast, I think. And the resource, okay. So did I just delete everything over here? Address, okay, so there is a 2. I just need to delete a 1. So I think that should be fine. So let me run it one more time. I'm not sure, maybe I had added it multiple times. So let's open our application over here, and now if we go to the dashboard, and now we get that particular icon. So when we click on this one, we need to show that particular dialog to add our address. So I think that's all for this lesson. We will do it on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there, and welcome back. So what we will do now is we will add one of we have added this button, and we will have to add that to our adapter. So if we go to the employee adapter over here, and we have one, we have a 2 over here. One is on edit and on delete click. So this is a lambda expression. So what we will do is we just copy this one and add one more on top of it and say this is on, let's say, add click. And we will just copy the same thing, this one, to our here this class. So let us add to this our nested class over here. And then what we will do is over here, let us go and add the binding dot on, we have a button which is a button add dot set on click listener, right? And then we will call this function on add click, and then we will pass the particular ID. So data dot, we need the ID. Okay, so that's it over here. So next thing is that, okay, I need to pass over here too on add click. Okay, and then we will go to our dashboard fragment over here, and we also have to add it over here. And this one we need to implement it over here. So whenever they click on this one, we need to show that particular dialog to add a address. So for that we will go, okay, let me go over here and add that on add click over here, and then we will go down, and then let me just duplicate this one. I'll just copy this code instead of writing a whole new function, and then we'll show this one add dialog, and here we need a dialog add address because we have added that one. We need that one, and this one should be a dialog add address binding. So we will create another edit binding, so that should be of a let's go and create another binding. So we need to take this one, and then I'll go over here and I'll just let me duplicate this one, and this will be of a add, right, add dialog binding. So we have add dialog binding, and here we will replace that one, and also we will replace everywhere wherever we have used that edit, we will replace with the add dialog. And here we don't want to get a single employee, and we just want to set the value to txt employee ID, and whatever ID we are getting we will set it there, ID dot, not the ID dot to string, right? Okay, so we don't have to set the value for other text. And then over here when we click on the fab update, so it should not be fab update, it should be of this one, right? So this one should we should rename this one, it should be add, right, not the update. So I'll just say add, and then we'll go over here and we just replace with this one add, and whenever we need to get the emp ID first of all, and then we need to get the address. So we just need a two variable over here. So for that I'll just get txt employee ID and txt address. So we just need a two, and here we have to say db helper that update the not the update, add the address. So add the address, and we need to create a address over here. So for that what we need to pass over here is the emp ID, which is of equals to emp ID that we have, and then we need to pass the address, right? So why it is not coming up? So employee ID, so emplo employee ID, okay, and this one should be dot to int, right, to int, okay, and then this one should be the address values of address. And then what we will do is over here. We don't want to get the employee. We have a result, right? So I'll just check that condition. If the result is of greater than the 0, then we means that we have successfully added a record. So toast dot make a text, and I'll just say require the context over here, and I'll just say new addr address added, new address added. Okay, so I think that should be fine, and toast dot the length should be long, and then I'll just say show, and I think that should be fine, right? So we just need to call this one from our here whenever we click on that add button, and then I'll just pass the IT over here. Okay, so that should be fine. So we don't have to do so much of the things because we just copied that particular function. And now if I just go and let us try to run our application, and let us try to add our address. So let me wait for our application to come up. So whenever we click on this button, we should get a dialog to add our first address. And the app is running, so let's go to the dashboard and let us click on the add button for the ID 1, and we get that employee ID 1, and we'll just add an address. Let's say this is of, let's say test 1, and then we will just give a address address. Just click on this, and then I think it did not add anything for us, and I hope that we got an error. Yeah, we got an error. It says that the no such table. So why are we not getting such a table? And I think you can guess it why we don't have this particular employee address table, and that is because what we have done is we have added a new table, right? So we have added our new table over here, but we haven't created that particular table over here, right? So we haven't created our table, and so what we need to do is we need to create that particular table first of all. And so for that we will just go, I think we will do it on the next lecture because I will have to explain some of the more concept over here. So let's meet up on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there, and welcome back. So let us continue, and what we will do now is we'll add our query over here, because previously we didn't add our query over here. So it should be not null, then execute our SQL query. That should be of address entity dot the create. We have a create query, right? And this will execute and create our entity of the address. And the next is on upgrade. So on upgrade, what we want to do, if it is not null, db is not null, then execute the SQL, and we will just run the address entity dot the destroy query. So that should be fine, right? And let us try again, and let me try to run my application one more time, and let us wait for the application to come up. I think that should take a bit time. And let's see whether we are successful over here or not. Okay, so the app is running, and we will go to the, I think we'll go to the dashboard over here, and let us try to add a new address for our employee ID 1, and I'll just say as a test 1 address, and let us try to add this one, and it did give us the toast over here. And let us try to check the logcat, and let us see what is the error that we get over here that says no such table, and still saying that we have no such table as the employee address. That is the table address that we have. And while while compiling the insert into employee address, where address and employee ID, so which means that it was not successful. Why? Because you can see that we have added a query, and we have also added an upgrade query, but we haven't changed our database version. So if the database version is 1, which was previously using, we had only one table on the version 1, but now we have added a new table, so the version must change over here. So anything that you change over to the database, like whether you add a new table, change the column name, so our version should be upgraded. So the thing is that we haven't upgraded our version, so let us upgrade our version to 2. So when we upgrade, this query should run, which means that it should destroy our entity for the employee as well as the address entity, and then it will go and recreate the table for us. So it will reset the all of the database table for us and recreate everything for us. So let's try again one more time. So we have upgraded our version over here, and let's go back to our application over here, and let's go to the dashboard. Okay, why did it crash? I think it just crashed, right? Let me go to the logcat, and let us wait for, okay, so we go over here, and okay, so there is an error over here, so on upgrade. So what does the while drop 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 table ID? Okay, so I think our query is not correct over there, right? So if we go to the destroy query, so drop table not ID, it should be if exist. So that is the query that we have written was not correct. So I think you didn't make that the query mistake over here, so that should be fine, but I think I made a mistake over here. So let me try to rerun again, and I hope that will fix my error. And let us wait one more time, and let me go over here, and let's, okay, so we still got error. So what is that error? I'm confused. So let me incomplete input while create a table employee address ID, which is of integer primary key auto increment, and employee ID integer not null, address text not null, right? Foreign key, we have a employee ID, and we have a ERE references to the employee table on ID, and on delete we cascade, right? So I think that should be fine. So why it did not run that query for us? So what is the error? So we need to find out that one. Let me go to the query over there, so create query, and I think we have some mistake over here. So create table, and I think we did not close this one somewhere. I hope that is the one that we didn't close. I think over here, I think it should be here that we need to close it, right? So I think that is the one that we have to close. And I think let's try to run it one more time, and I hope that should fix this particular error. So let me go over here and go to dashboard. Yeah, so that, I think that got fixed. And so I forgot to add the bracket, the closing bracket over there. So let me add a new test1 and email as a test1. Let's say add at gmml.com, just give a random and just add that one, and it got inserted a new record. And let me go to the dashboard. Now we have one. Let me try to, I think, add a new address for this one. So test1 addr address. So let me add this one. Okay, so new address is added over there. So how do we check is currently, later we will bring up all of the address over here. So for now, what we can do is we can go to the database inspector over here. So we can inspect the database for us. So let me try to open the database inspector over here, and let us wait. So let me try to go to the device over here, and nothing to show. We have this is currently closed. Let me try to just click on this button, keep the database connection open, so it will, because whenever we are doing any operation over here, we are closing the database as soon as we finished our operation. So that is a best practice. so it is closed. So let me keep the database connection open just for the debug purpose. So what we will do is we'll just go and try to add a new record over here, and as is a test2 and test2 at gmail.com. Let me give a random phone number and just add that one. Okay, so we got that one now. And if I see the employee table, we have a 2 record. And if I see the employee address, we just got a 1. And then let me try to add a new record. So just check on the live update, then it should live update over this particular table. So we'll go to our over here and let me add a new record, right? So let me add, this is for the employee ID 2, and I'll test to ADDRE address. Let me try to add. Okay, so we got that one, right? So that is the thing. So we have a 2 address for the employee ID 1 and employee ID 2, and here we have a 2 employee with each of employee name test 1 and test 2. So I think that's complete. So we have successfully added our record to our address table. So next thing is that we will work with our how to retrieve all of the addresses. So I think we will go to somewhere here and let's get the list of all of our address on our next lecture. So till then, have a great day. Yeah, hi there and welcome back. So let us continue. So next thing is that we need to display the particular address that we have added, right? So what we will do is we will create a layout. So let's go over here, and I think I will duplicate this employee item that we will use it in our recycle view. So let me go and paste it, and instead of the employee item, I'll just say ADDRE address item, and then inside this we will adjust the design. So let's go to, I think we will split it out, and first thing is that we don't need a phone number, right? So let me remove that phone number, and we will just need ID. That's fine. And then for the name, yeah, we need it. We have a name, and then we have an address. So this will be LV, I think, change the ADDRE address, right? So, and here text will be like ADDRE address too, and yeah, that should be fine. So we have a name and address and the ID. So the button that we need is we will just need let's say edit and a delete, and I think we'll not add a add button over here. We'll just add it from the employee over there. So this is the edit, and this is the add button. So I can just remove this button. So instead of adding a whole new design, it's much easier to just customize the current our design, right? So what we will do is I need to bottom up. So bottom of each of the didn't have the bottom of, so I think it should be of a bottom of the parent. So let me go to the design, and then we have this two, right? So let me just select it and change it. So vertical style of the, I think, spread, I think that's not working. So let me go and change that one. Okay, why not we just change it, clear the constraint selection, and we will just constraint it. I think we will just select both of them, and we will try to change it vertically. Okay, so that's fine. I think that's look fine. So now I think our design is ready. So why it's still giving us the error? And missing constraint attribute. Okay, I think that should be fine. Let me add that one. Is it the constraint is missing? So no, constraint is already there, right? Okay, so on the side right hand side is missing. So let us add the constraint to the right hand side, should be, let's give us 0, and this one too, so that should be for 0. And then I think you can remove this one section, as that was the right hand side constraint was missing. So I think the design is okay for now. I think that should be good. So the next thing is that we need to add a recycle view. So let's go to the fragment of the notification, and here we don't need this one, right? So we will add a recycle view over here. So where is that recycle view? Just drag this one over here, and we will just constrain it to the top of the 0 and left and right too, as well as to left and right of the 0, and the bottom of also to the 0. And then the layout width, we will just match the constraint, and height also the match the constraint. So I think that should be fine. And let us give an ID. So don't forget to give ID. We will call it as a address address. Okay, that should be fine. So that should be fine. And if we go to the notification view model, I think it's not used. We need to use a fragment, right? So here we need to remove off this one, right? And that should be fine. And the next thing is that we need to implement this particular recycle view over there. And so I think we will do it on the next lecture. So in this section, we'll just focus on the layout. So let's meet up on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue. And next thing is that we need to create an adapter. So let's go to the notification over here, and I'll just create another package and call it as adaptor adapter. What is the wrong? So I just have to rename that one adaptor adapter, right? So we have an adapter, and then we will create a, I think we'll just copy from here so we don't have to recreate it. And if you want, you can just go and create by yourself. That would be a good practice, but I'm just copying it to save some time over here. So I'll just call it as address adapter, and then we will just modify this one. So we will not need the add because we are not using that one. We'll just need edit and a delete, right? And the recycle view of the we will have to rename the nested class over here. It should be of the address view folder, and then we have to change it over here, right? And also over here and here and here. So we don't have to pass the add on click, and then we also have to remove it from here. So that should fix that error. And then we also don't have this, right? Okay, so let me remove all of this. And then the next thing is what we have to do is over the, let's go to the diff util, and in the diff util we have make use of the employee, but we need a employee employee address, right? We are getting the employee address. If we go to the DB helper, we get the employee address, so we have to make use of this employee address over here. So employee address, and then also here is the employee address and employee address, and also in the async list default we will make use of a employee address. This doesn't have ID, it has an employee ID, so I have to make use of the employee ID. Okay, that should be fine. And then we have to change the, where is this one, employee item binding to the, we have a address item binding, right? So I have to change that one. And also into the nested class that we have, we need to change employee item binding to the address item binding. So that should be fine. And here we need to fix, we just have a two item over here. One is of the ID and one is of the name, and then we have one more that is of the LV of the address. So here we just have to pass the address, Okay, so why we are not getting that one? Okay, so because we are getting of the employee type, so we need to pass the employee address over here too. So I just can get the address from there, and it should be of a employee ID. So here we just have to pass the employee ID, and here also we need to pass the employee ID. So I think that should be the one. And here also we need to pass the set employee. We'll just have to pass the employee address, and instead of set employee we will just say set ADDRE address. Okay, so I think that should be fine. There is no more error, right? Yeah, I think that should be the one. Everything is changed. Employee address, the future is done, our nested class is done, and then the adapter recycle view is also done. Okay, so I think that should be fine over here, and we need to implement this adapter now in our fragment. So let's do it in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there, and welcome back. So let us continue. And we have created an adapter, and we need to implement this one. So I think we will just close for now everything that we have open, and yeah, just keep it to the notification fragment over there, and then we can just remove this one. First of all, we will need a private let init var, we will need the ADDRE address adapter, and then what we have to do is we will also need the database helper class, and also all of the bindings, right? So we will also add on the top the private let init var of bin binding, and this should be of the fragment notification binding, right? And then address adapter. Then we will also need let's create a private val, and it should be of the db, not the ad, it should be of a db hel db helper. So val db helper, and that should be that should be type of the db helper class that we have, and we'll initialize by lazy, right? And then we will just have to implement that one. So we need a require activity over here, and require activity dot the application that we get, and as my application class, and then I can get that my db helper. Okay, so we have a db helper, and also we will need to have a private let's say a val, and it should be of a linear layout manager. That should be of the type of the linear layout manager, and we'll initialize it by lazy2, and we can just say that linear layout manager, and we will just pass the required context over here. So now this is already. So I think that's the thing that we have to do, and we will go over here, and instead of the I'll just say a binding, initialize the binding, and that should be from the frag fragment notification binding.inflate, and just give a layout inflator, and from here return the binding.the_root, right? That should be fine. I can remove this nullable check, and now we have that one. I'll just override one more function. It should be on view created, right? So on view created, we are ready to use our initialize our address adapter that we have first of all, and ADDR address adapter, and we need to pass the on edit and on click. So I think instead of writing out down, we will just copy it from here. So we just need these two, on edit and on delete click. from the dashboard fragment, and I'll just paste it below here. Now for now I can just keep it that. Later we will have to implement that too. So I'll just say here on edit and on delete, click. So the adapter is initialized. Next thing is that we have to initialize the binding dot. We need the address dot apply it. When we get this apply function, we have our recycle view. So I will implement the layout manager, which is of the linear layout manager that we have, and the adapter, which is of equals to the address adapter that we have, right? So that should be the one that we need over here. And the next thing is that we have to create a function to get the let's say address list, and this will help us to get the list of the addresses from our database. So what we need to do is val, and I will just get emp address list. We can call it any name that you prefer. dbhelper.get the address list that we have. Now I have an address list adapter that I can just set the address of the whatever value that I'm getting from here, right? So then I can call this function over here, right? So that should be the one that we need, and I can make this as a private because we are just going to use inside this class. So next thing is that we have to create a two more function to get our dialog done. So we need a dialog, so edit dialog and the delete dialog. So I think we will do it on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue. So we need to implement this show dialog, edit dialog and the show delete dialog. This is already implemented over here. So we'll just copy and modify that particular function, right? So edit dialog. So we don't have to rewrite everything from beginning. So I'll just go. It's best practice that you write it on your own. That will be a practice for you. But for me, I just want to save some time. So I'm just copying it. So I need to create this binding. Let's go, and I can also just create over here like val and edit dialog binding. That should be fine, or you can just go and create on the top. That should be also fine. Since I think we are not using outside of this function, I'll just keep it to as a local variable inside this function, and that should be one. And I need a dialog edit the address. Do you have dialog edit? So we don't have that particular dialog edit address, so I need to create, right? So I'll just go to the add dialog add address. So instead of this, I'll just copy this one and just paste it, and dialog I'll just say edit address, edit the address, and that should be fine. Now we just need to, I think, let's go over here. I need the address and the employee ID, and then we'll go to this button. I think we will initialize this a button to, let me change the button text, right? So it should not be of an add, it should be of the UPD update. And I think other thing, the text also I need to add the update over here. I think that should be fine. And okay, so that should be fine. The edit dialog address is ready. So now we can just say that the dialog edit address, we can get that one, right? And then I need to change this one to dialog edit address binding. Okay, so that's fine too. And then we don't want to get all of this employee because we are not working with the employee. And then we can just set the value to our txt employee ID, and then over here we need to get the txt address. So we just have a true. I think I don't need this one. So I need a employee address over here. It's not the int that we require. We will need emp address. So employee address is the value that we are going to require. Employee address dot the id that we need, employee id, and here is the address. So here we need to have what we have, fab add. Is it the fab add that we just dialog edit address? No, I think I changed it to the fab update, right? So why I'm still getting over there? So dialog edit address, let me go over here, is the fab update. So why I'm not getting that one? Fab add. It's a bit confusing why I'm getting that one. Fab update, but I'm getting it as a fab add over here. Did I match it with the correct one? So it should be dialog add. Okay, so it should be of our dialog dialog. It's not the add, it should be of the edit address binding. So sorry for that one. That one caused the confusion over there. Yeah. So make sure you get the dialog edit address binding over there. So otherwise we get the add over there. So I think that should be fine, and we need the emp id over here, right? And also the address that we require, and we don't have a phone, so we'll just get the txt employee id and txt address that we can get over here. And then other thing that we require over here is the update. We need to update the address, right? And then we have to pass it over here as the address, right? So we have to pass the address. So what we need to pass over here is that we need to pass the employee id, which is of emp id that we are getting, and the address is the value of the address that we have. Okay, so here it should be to int, right? That should be the type of the int, and then I think that should be fine. Then we just need to get the list of the address. Okay, I think that should be fine, and then we just have to pass the show edit dialog over there, and we need to pass this one as the employee address, not the integer value. So just amend this one, and then whatever value we are getting as the, let's say, data or something you can call it, and just pass it over here. And then we need to do the same thing for our adapter, right? So we'll go adapter, and over here on edit we have to pass that particular employee address, and over here, and then on the here too we need to pass this particular value, not the integer value, and here we just have to pass the data itself. Okay, so that should be the one that we need over here, right? So next thing is that we need to add delete dialog. So let's do it on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue. So the next thing that we have to do over here is to add a delete dialog, right? So this dialog is also already present in our not the view model. It should be on the dashboard fragment, and yeah, this is the one. So we just have to copy, and we don't want to recreate it. It's a best practice. You can just go and create yourself. That's where you can get practice with all of the coding. So here we have to get as a delete message and the positive. Okay, db helper dot. We don't want this one to delete the employee. We want to delete address, and we have to pass that id. And then we will just say we will check a condition. I'll check if the result If the result was greater than the 0, then we know that it was successful. Then I'll just say toast message dot make a text and require the context over here, and then we'll say del delete addr address success delete the address was successful, and then we'll just say toast dot the length is long, and just show it. Okay, so now that should be fine, and after that we will dismiss it, and I think we can get back the list of the address. So just get the list of the address back from the database, and that should refresh the recycle view, right? So I think that should be the one there for the slow delete dialog. And I think, yeah, we don't have to change anything much over here. Just on the text and check the delete to the our address, and yeah, I think that should be fine. And also we can check for this one, like if condition over here, the result is greater than of 0, then also we can just say, just copy this whole toast message and just pass it over here, and we can just say update address successful. So that's it, and the next thing is that we just have to test it out. So we will meet up on the next lecture and test all of those stuff. So till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue, and we have added the edit dialog as well as the delete dialog. So the next step is, let us go and test our application, and let us try to fix some of the issue that we still have. So we'll see what are the issue that we will have when we actually run and test our application. So just wait for the application to come up. Yeah, so I think that should be fine, and let us try to test it out. So if I go to the dashboard over here, we have some of the application record already, which is of the record for the employee. So let us add, I think if I go to the notification, this is an address list. So we have an address for 2, 3, and 4. So we need to add some of the, okay, let us add for the employee test 5. So let me add address, and then I'll just say test 5 let's say addre address, and I'll just add that one, and also add it for the 6. So I'll just say test 6 addre address, just add that one, and then we can go to the address list and we see that we have our address. And the next thing is that we have to test for the edit. So let me try to edit this address, and I'll just say demo something and just update it. Okay, it got updated, and we also see the toast message over there. And similarly we will do it for the 5, and we'll just say demo. Yeah, it's updating, right? So we don't have any issue with that one. And I think the thing is that we have insert and update is working perfectly, and also we will test for the delete. So for now I think we'll not test the delete from here. I think we'll test it from here. If you remember, the query that we have written is that we have on delete cascade, which means that there is a relation between the parent and the child table over here. Parent table is the employee table that we have, and then the child table is our address table. So we have a foreign key reference of the employee ID, which is referring to the parent table of the employee table, and employee table, it has a reference to the ID. So which means there is a relationship between the employee and the address table, and whenever we delete the parent reference, it should also delete the record in our child table. So this is how it should work, because the query that we have written to create a table is that's how it's going to work. So let us trace that one. So I'll go to the database inspector over here, and let me open the employee, and let me just select the live update, and also for the the live update for our address table. So we have a record for, let me test that we have employee ID of 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and let us try to delete this employee of 6, and it should also delete the record of the employee ID 6 in our address table. So that's how it should work, but let us test it out. So I'll try to delete the record of the employee 6, just delete this one, right? And yeah, it got deleted from here. We can see that the number 6 is gone, or the test 6 is gone, but from here it's not gone. So you can see the employee ID 6 is still persist over here, and then that means that this query is not working, or something is not working correctly. So we have to fix that one, right? So I think we will do it in the next lecture, and we will see that how we can configure our database helper class to configure all of those stuff. So let's do it in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there and welcome back. So let us continue with our lesson. So the next thing is that the thing that we have to fix is whenever we delete this particular employee, we also want to delete the address that belongs to that particular employee, right? So the things that we have to fix is we need to go to our DB helper, and we need to override one of the function over here. Let's go on to the top over here, and I think I will override a function over here on open. So let me run this one, and if you point a cursor over here, it says that this is called when the database has been opened. So this function is called whenever the database function, the database has a open connection. So when database has been opened. So whenever our connection to database is open, we want to implement here the foreign key reference. So by default in the SQLite, the foreign key reference is not enabled. So if we want to enable it, we have to manually do it. And so let's see how we can manually, or how we can set foreign key constraint enable in our Android SQLite. So let's go and set if the DB is not null, then we'll check for the set foreign key constraint enable. So by default this is not enabled, so we just say that enable it to true. So it just take the parameter, you can see that true to enable the foreign key constraint, false to disable them, right? So you can just read over here, set whether the foreign key constraint are enabled for the database. By default the foreign key constraint are not enforced by the database. This method allows the application to enable the foreign key constraint. It must be called each time the database is open to ensure that foreign key constraints are enabled for this session. So this is based on this session. So which means that every time we have a database connection open, we must enable this function to work with the foreign key constraint. We have enabled a foreign key constraint in our table already. So in order to work this one, so whenever we are working with this particular table, at that time, so we should set this particular set foreign key constraint to true, because as you see that it's mentioned that it must be called each time the database is open to ensure that the foreign key constraint are enabled for this particular session, right? And then you can just go and read that when the foreign key constraint are disabled, the database does not check whether the change to the database will be violate foreign key constraint. So all of those stuff you can just go and read through. So we'll just check over here and enable it now, and what we will do now is we'll just try to run our application one more time, and let's wait for the application to come up, right? So let's go to our app over here, and okay, so let's wait for it. Okay, so we have that one, and let me try to add a new record of, let's say, a test 7, and I'll just say, let me give a test 6, I think. So test 6 and test 6, add test 6 at gmail.com, and then we will say 1 2 3 4 something, and just add that record, and then we'll go to the dashboard, and we'll just try to add a record. Okay, so not the update, right? So we need to add an address, and I'll just give the employee ID. So employee ID is I think 6, right? So we can just update that one, and here just say test 6 ADDRE address. Just add that one. So I think it did not work, right? So I think we changed that particularly the ID. So it's not going to work, I think. So I think I'll just say as a test 6 ADDRE address, something like that. Okay, it got added, and here we have that one. So what we will do now is we will try to delete. So if I go to database infection and I just check for the live update, we have this, and then over here we have this ID, right? So let us try to delete that particular record, and let's check. So we want to delete a record of the 7, right? So let me delete this. It should also delete the employee address, right? Yeah, now it's working fine. So which means that whenever we delete that particular employee, hey, I think I mistakenly deleted the wrong one. I made a mistake over here. It should be from here. Sorry for that. So let us test with this one, right? So I'll just test, and I'll just delete this employee. Now you can see that the employee got deleted. If I the employee address got deleted too. So let me delete this 3. So the 3 is also gone. Let me delete the 4. You can see the 4 is also gone. So if you see here, we have only 5 and 7 employee, and we have 5 and 7 we don't have. So I can just change this one to something like, it's not I need to update this one to 7. Yeah, and let me try to, so let me delete from here, and I think it got deleted. Yeah, so that's how it's going to work, and we have just fixed that particular issue, the foreign key constraint. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture. We'll meet up in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day. Yeah, hello there, and welcome back. So let us continue, and let us do some final touch up for our application, especially for the naming convention over here. So this dashboard, we will name it to the employee, and for the notification, we will change it to the address, right? So the naming is quite confusing for now. So what we will do is, for that we will go to the navigation, and let's go to the mobile navigation. And if you take a look on the label, it's coming from the title dashboard, and this one is coming from the title notification. So if we go to the split over here, and you can see that the label is coming from here. So you can just go over here and click on it, Alt Control, and click on it. It will take you to that particular string resource file, and then we can just change this one, right? So we can just change this one. If you want to change this one too, you can change it, right? I think it's better that we change to something different, right? And I think I'll just duplicate this one particularly. We need one is for title, let's say EMPLOYE employee, and this one should be of the ADDRE address. So here we will change as EMPLOYE employee, and here we'll change to the ADDRE address. And then we can just replace this one to our navigation over here. So this should be of employee, and this one should be of title, title address. Yeah, so I think that should be fine. And if I turn to run my application, and let us take a look at whether it actually changed our dashboard and the notification back to the employee and the address. Okay, so you can see that our app is running, and if we go to the dashboard, it's not changing, right? So that label is for here. So if we go to the tab over here, you can see that the label for our tab has been changed, but the button navigation still remains the same. So to change this one, we still have to go to the menu over here, because that is coming from the menu, and we'll go to the button nav menu over here, and then we'll have to change this one. So we'll go to split, and then the dashboard, I'll just change this one to the employee, and this one we will change back to the address, right? Okay, so now we can run our application one more time, and then we'll open our application. Now you can see that we have our employee and the address. So that was a simple thing that we can do. So I think that cleared the confusion of the notification and dashboard. Probably that we were thinking what was that one, but now we have rename it to the employee and the address. The naming convention is quite clear for now. So I think that's all for this lesson, and hope to see you on the next lecture. Till then, have a great day.
Yeah, hello there, and you are finally here, which means that you have successfully completed the whole lecture or the whole course. That's a great news, and I want to congratulate you for completing all of the courses over here. That's a good job. And I hope you learned something new over here and you enjoyed it. And if you like my course over here, just give me a thumbs up or subscribe me or even leave me a comment. And if you want to learn something new about the Android development, make sure you leave me a comment, or just you can email me or directly. Or if you want to support me, just visit my Udemy course section where you can buy other courses or the paid courses about the Android development, and that will be great and you will be supporting me. So we'll meet up with the next course. Hopefully that I will bring up some new course over here on the Udemy channel. Till then, have a great day.